be the best deal. I think this is the one I'm using. Is this it?
On the
That's it.
When's your
she already had it.
When's the dinner? Your thing with the. It was last night.
16 pages.
You got to remind me. I can't remember. Did you go?
Okay, I'm going to call the April 15th, 2025 Lanesville Community School Board of Trustees meeting to order. The first item or the second item is going to be we're going to add public comment to the very end. That's on the general comments, not on the related to agenda items only. So that will be number 25, and then number 26 will be adjournment. Okay, this next item is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board members, you have received the agenda in advance of tonight's meetings. You have had time to review, research, and consider the matters to be voted on tonight. Board members, do you have any questions or concerns that need to be addressed before we proceed?
Not at this time.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from the March 18th, 2025 board meeting.
I make a motion we approve the minutes from the March 18th board meeting.
I'll second.
All those in any discussion?
No.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The next item is approval of claims for the month of April. Can I have a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the claims for the month of April.
I'll second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The next item is principal report.
Happy Easter week. We have lots of excellent happenings this month. I tried that with the elementary kids today because we try to swap jokes, and it just went over like that too. You were just not hopping with excitement tonight. I mean, come on, guys, 8-year-old humor. So, but anyway, we are going to actually have our first annual. Can it be a first and an annual? I don't know. But anyway, our first of staff Easter egg hunt tomorrow at 3:00. So we are super excited, to just kind of celebrate and just kick it off. The weather's been bad, with rain and flooding and sports. And we're just really excited to just kind of come together and have a moment of fun. So we're excited about that tomorrow. We're kicking off I Learn next week. As everyone knows, the elementary will be testing April 23rd to May 2nd. We are really excited to just see how our students have grown and what progress they've made over the year. We really appreciate the parents for helping us to make sure their kids are here on time and ready to test every day during that testing process. So thank you so much. Spring sports have started. So shout out to our middle school girls tennis team and our track team. We're just excited to have our kids involved in those sports. And we're hoping the weather finally clears up so that we can actually have those events. So we also have a 6th grade band concert coming up on April 28th. And then the elementary art show and spring concerts are April 29th for kindergarten through third grade at 6:30. So just excited to see all of those other curricular areas come together. Perkins and Hopkins do a great job with those events. We're looking forward to May. Every grade level will be going on a field trip. We have field day and just lots of fun stuff. So we're ready to finish off quarter four strong. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Just a few announcements on my side of the building. I want to start off by saying this past week, I'm not going to talk about it much this time, but this past week I just went to Washington, D.C. We had a wonderful time watching the band kids compete in Annapolis, Maryland high school. They took away some awards, but like I said, we'll get into that on the next meeting. I think they all had a wonderful time. We are also in the middle of our iLearn testing right now, and so that's going well. Thanks to Paul getting us help set up on technology, and Ms. Shingleton always helping us. We appreciate that. Our spring sports are going on too. We got baseball game happening right now tonight. Softball's been going on. Everything's been going well. I know this later on the agenda here, Angie Hinton has put in for her resignation as the high school girls basketball coach. I just want to say to Angie, thank you so much for bringing this community together like you have over the years. I have not been at Lanesville for the entire time, but I know I've lived in Lanesville for a decade, and I have heard the sirens from my house, and I have seen the people in the streets, and I have seen shirts just about everywhere in Harrison County and other counties just wearing, regional championship, all state championship, and all of the different sectionals and everything. It's really brought this community together, and it has created a very powerful basketball program. And like I said, I haven't been here the whole time that you've been here, but I do want to say thank you because you've made a huge impact on those girls, and words cannot express you and all of the Hintons, what you've done here for everyone. I think that we could all agree on that, right? So thank you, Angie. Joe, thank you. Thank you, Hintons. Round of applause for them, please. Just a few dates to know. April 22nd, 2027, class of 2027 is having a fundraiser at Polly's Freeze. If you bring a flyer or just even a picture of the flyer that we have going around through Parent Connection, you will be able to add that to the total, and some of those proceeds will go to help them. April 26th is our Senior Awards Banquet. It starts at 6 p.m. We have Daniel Cox coming to speak. He is a very successful in a doctoral program right now, and we're really excited to have him. Our music program is on April 28th at 6:30. All in the public are welcome. High school side is hosting a blood drive through the Red Cross on April the 29th. If you are interested in donating, this is also open to public. If you're interested in donating, go on the Red Cross website and enter in the code, the sponsor code, Lanesville HS, to register for that, and you can get your time approved through that system. Lastly, here we have Margot Stewart is going to be up here in a few items down. She's going to discuss the FFA competition and the awards that Lanesville has won. We hosted this enormous event, 200 and something people here. It was amazing to see FFA kids from all over our state, our region, coming in here and competing. We took away some awards. I don't want to steal your thunder, but Margot did an amazing job. She is an exceptional student here at Lanesville, and all of the FFA members were, all hands in. It was awesome to see. A lot of community members helped judge, and we want to say thank you to those folks as well. Thank you all.
Okay, next item, superintendent report.
Yeah, I've just got a few things here. Number one, give everybody a heads up. I've got a parent group that I've started meeting with. Meet first Monday of each month. We started our first meeting this past time It was very beneficial for me. I've got 5 parents on each side, on the elementary and the high school, so 10 total to meet with to get some direct input from parents, and so that was very beneficial for me, and going to continue that moving forward. We are almost to the end of April, which means the end of a long legislative session. Things are still being moved about. The big one that went through recently was probably Senate Bill 1. I was in Madison all day at Superintendent's regional meeting. It came off the floor between 2 and 2:30 a.m., and so they were still sorting through it. We do know some things that are coming through on that that will greatly impact us here at Lanesville. One, we know, and those when we have met, or when I have met with the community about a potential building project, the question that I always get is, well, what's it going to do to my taxes? Senate Bill 1 is what directly is impacting property taxes and assessed value of communities. And so that was needed to be sorted through. Talking with our advisors, they couldn't put together a calculator because they didn't know where all that was going to line out. One other thing about Senate Bill 1 was limiting referendums to general elections only. That's why we were moving as quickly as we were to try to get grandfathered in. They had tried to do this a few times in the past. There was always a grandfather clause. It always failed to get out of either committee or to get passed out of the Senate or the House. Last night, the House and the Senate came to an agreement. The governor says that he is going to sign it. What is in that is finally limiting referendum to general elections only. So that would be even years and November only. We were trying to get far enough along to be grandfathered in that process because that had always been there. I've got meetings coming up over the next few days. This year, that language does not appear to be in there. And so we may have to put a break on things until November of 26. I'm going to get the final word from Ice Miller, our bond counsel, who I met with some of their attorneys today in Madison. They were still sorting through it because it came off at 2:30. That's why we were trying to get as far down the road as possible to get in under that. But that language was not in there this year for the first time. So I will know that officially once we meet, once they have a chance to digest it. But that may have pushed that back a full year on us. So that's there. One thing in Senate Bill 1 that was particularly scary for the first time that I can remember, and probably since the 50s and 60s, there is a school corporation northeast of Indianapolis, Union School Corporation in Modoc. It's a very small corporation. Their high school's got about 60 kids in it. What they do, however, is they've got about 7,000 online kids. Academically, those online kids in Clarksville does something very similar. Academically, they do not achieve very highly, and so it makes the corporation look like a very underachieving school corporation. In Senate Bill 1 was dissolving the school corporation. The conversations we had this morning, it was still in there. Unless it gets pulled at the last minute and the governor or whatever, it'll be the first time that I can remember that a school corporation has been dissolved by the state of Indiana. And so what would happen then is the kids that are remaining that go there, over about 60% of their kids go to neighboring school corporations. The lines would be redrawn. They would be dissolved. Any debt that they would have, the state would pick up. That is a very, very, very scary thing. The state often talks about local control, but as we talk a lot of times, it's local control unless it doesn't go along with the narrative in Indianapolis. That takes local control out of your hands. And that is a very, very scary thing. And we've got some of our neighbors, and I say neighbors, relative neighbors, Cannleton, Medora, that are very nervous about such things. Financially, they're not in the same place we are. Even enrollment, they're not in the same place we are. Academically, they're not in the same place we are. but it makes everybody nervous because a third of school corporations in Indiana are under 1,000 students. But if the state legislature can dissolve a school corporation, that makes you nervous. So that was in Senate Bill 1. But that is all, like I said, it came off the floor about 2:30 this morning. That is all going through. There are other things. We're looking at budget out of the House. We're looking, the latest run had us at roughly 5% in year one, roughly 2% in year two. If that holds, that won't be a bad thing. 2 years ago, when it came through, we negotiated with our teachers. They got what we were anticipating. All of that money, they got about 103% of what we anticipated as new money. We anticipate to work very closely with our teachers to get them every penny we can when that comes through. Looking at the corporations in our area, we've got some corporations, the top end is a little higher than ours. We've also got corporations, the teachers work 185 days, ours work 184. We've got some that work 182, so you got to factor all that in. Clarksville, which I talked about earlier, is the only one in our area of the 20 we always talk about that work less than 185 days, but the upper end is more than our teachers. So we want to make sure that our teachers stay in that category at the very, very top, but also gain on those that work the 185 days instead of 184. We want to take care of our teachers, and not just our teachers, but our hourly employees as well. 2 years ago, we got them all a $2 an hour raise. We'd like to do something similar again if we can. So we're watching that budget very closely. Another thing I'd like to talk about, something that is on the agenda for you guys for later, that I would like to brief you on a little bit. I will be asking for, hopefully, your permission to create a assistant principal position at the junior senior high school. Ms. Smith is currently bouncing back and forth, and I'm going to share some statistics with you guys about the need of it, and then some financial things that justify it as well. Currently, and having that assistant principal, because we went for several years without one, and before that we had a combination of principal and superintendent, and I served in this position, athletic director, assistant principal, and transportation director, and those of us that did that could tell you that we got the job done, but it was not done well. And I've had conversations with those that did it before me, and that was echoed, not as well as it probably could have been. Currently, as of the 15th of April, looking at some discipline data that we've got in Harmony, we currently have 180 discipline entries for the elementary side. Last year, we had 51 total. The year before that, I think, was 12, and maybe 8 the year before. The behaviors, when you talk to the teachers, are very similar. We're doing a better job of recording that and handling some of those things because of the additional staff, the additional support for our teachers. As we sit right now, we've got 618 entries at the high school level. A lot of that is attendance. The state put in new attendance law last year, and so that put a lot more emphasis on attendance, and you had to track it and you had to enter it, but that all takes time. And so, I remember years as principal here, I would have 350 entries for an entire year. A lot of things you dealt with, but you didn't enter it correctly. You didn't have time. You didn't do those things. And so that's what this kind of gives us. Part of the group that I met with, the teachers or the parents, what I kept hearing over and over and over was we need more positive behavior interventions. We're doing a lot with discipline, but we need some PBIS strategies and models. We need to improve upon that and increase on that. Like everything else, that's difficult. And I know our teachers would greatly appreciate that. I've had a lot of conversations with some of them, some of those awards, some of those rewards, some of those things would be very beneficial for them as well. For that to be effective, you need somebody to focus it on the high school level and somebody to focus it on the elementary level. Those are things that we've tried to push off on counselors. We've tried to push off on teachers, people that also don't have the time or the capacity to do it. The state right now is putting an increased focus. They did a few years ago on reading. Now they're putting it on math. And so they went through the science of reading. Now we're trying to push math and math and math and math to go with that. Our building principals are going to have to focus on that, especially at the elementary level. when you've got all this additional duties that you have to do, you've got to free up something somewhere. This would help with that as well whenever you're able to put an assistant principal in each location. At the high school, and those of you that have kids that are coming through that are in 8th grade, you set through the new diploma requirements. It's an absolute nightmare, All of the tracking that has to be done, all of the internships. Mr. Miller and I and Ms. Morgan have had a lot of conversations. We are trying our darndest to get our kids here at Lanesville out working as much as possible through internships. One of our biggest hurdles are who's going to track all that. We did with a few kids now. Mr. Miller and I have had this conversation a lot, and he's asked me several times, who's going to track this? And I always just kind of joke with him and point at him and say, well, you've got it, knowing full well that he can't do that and everything else. This additional person would help with that. As a licensed teacher, they were able to do that stuff. And so that would be very beneficial, because our counselor, Ms. Morgan, with everything that's been added the last few years to counselors, especially at the high school level, she doesn't have that time or that capacity either. And so we know we're sorely lacking there. Teachers and administrators are right now trying to rework our evaluation system. One of the conversations that we had the other day was making it meaningful, making it impactful, making it where it's not a waste of somebody's time. As we sit now, and our teachers are wonderful about working with us, but for it to be more meaningful and impactful, if you can have smaller groups of teachers with administrators, you have more time to work with them. And so that would be another benefit for that. Fiscally, we are well equipped for this move. We are sitting, and those of you that were around 2 years ago, if you remember, and Tom, you can probably remember, we were catching a lot of grief because we were sitting on way too much money. We have tried, and I saw that, and I agreed with that. We have tried to spend to be impactful for students first. That's what this position would do. And for teachers and support staff second. That's what this position would do. As we sit today, and I shared with the board also, and I will share with you guys, the state tells you that if you've got 15, even though I think that is pretty low, but 15 to 20, even 30% of your yearly expenditures on hand in cash, you are doing exceptionally well fiscally. Our neighbors, and as most data goes, this is a year behind. Our neighbors are sitting there. North Harrison's at 31.9%. And again, this was 2023. It's lagged a year. South Harrison was 67.3%, meaning all that they spent in 2023, at the time of the record, they had 67% of that on hand in cash. They could have just paid it. Lanesville Community School Corporation is sitting 135.3%. We are not a for-profit. So the more money, and that's why, again, we're working on the solar project to keep money in education. The more money we can get where it impacts students, it impacts our teachers, whether that's through salary or support, that's what we need to do, and not spend money frivolously. And 2 years ago, we had people saying we were sitting on too much money, and I agreed. We could have people now saying that we're spending money left and right, and we shouldn't. We are sitting, and again, this is backed up a year, 135% of all that we spent in 2023, we have on hand in cash currently. We need to support our teachers and our students more. This will help do that. Looking at, because I've also been asked, well, what about other schools? What are they doing? I looked at several schools roughly our size pretty quickly. West Washington has the same model. Orleans, Henryville, New Washington, Springs Valley, Bar Reeve, North Davies. There are two that I looked at that didn't. South Central was one, and Borden was one. Borden is in the same school corporation as Henryville. Both are 1A schools. They are in our sectional now. Henryville has it, an assistant principal at both levels. They do not. So just kind of throw that. But a lot of our peers have that same model. Talking with some of their superintendents, they say that it is invaluable because what it does is it gets a lot of the day-to-day grind of the running of the school in the hands of those assistant principals, with all the additional things that are put on schools now with curriculum and with guidance and everything else, it really frees up that principal to be the manager of the school and not get as dirty in the day-to-day running, which is something that we have sorely lacked here. That is why I'm asking for that. Be able to create that position and then post that position. The salary will be slightly larger than what it is at the elementary, but that is solely because of probable additional duties. And then also the tracking of all those kids we're trying to do internships. Our elementary currently is at 80,000, so we're looking at 85,000, and probably a few extra days on top of that. Just maybe 5 extra days to work in, knowing that we've got all those things. I wanted to give you that information so you guys and the public kind of had that as we go. But that is my report.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Apple. Next is a PTSO report.
Hello, good evening. My report's pretty simple this month. We still have 2 board positions open. Currently president and vice president. Our board will continue to run. It just will be a lot more on the people who remain. So if anybody is willing to step up, please reach out and we'll get you the info. We had the spring carnival, which was lots of fun. We appreciate all of those who came out in that yucky weather that we had in the rainy season. The kids had a great time, and I think some of the volunteers even had a good time. Mr. Kramer's over there. The basketball's on his head. We appreciate all the staff members who helped with setup, games, and cleanup. The silent auction was also tied into the spring carnival. It was fantastic. I think, again, everyone had a good time with that, and I'll have totals for you next month. Upcoming events, we have this Friday, we have April 18th, we have the Car Rider Line. So PTSO works in the Car Rider Line, helping those kiddos get out of the car, welcome them to school, have a good Friday, those things like that. If you are interested in joining us, please let us know. On Friday, April 18th, we have a parent perk up at Starlight Coffee in Georgetown at 8 a.m. Everyone's welcome. It's a time that we as parents, teachers, staff, we get together and just get to know each other a little bit more so that way if you want to come in and volunteer, you at least see a friendly face. Teacher Appreciation Week is May 5th through the 9th, so we are gearing up for those types of things. And our next PTSO meeting is May 14th at 6 p.m. in the library.
The next item is public comment related to agenda items only. Public participation policy will be in place. The first is Chip White.
Actually got 2 things to talk about. I think I spoke at, I don't know if it was the last school board meeting or the one before, but I spoke about the concerns my wife and the community have in the elementary. And about 3 days after that, Ms. Holder called me and wanted to set up a meeting, and my wife met with her and discussed things. Then after that, we met with Dr. Apple, discussed things with him. Did you relay this to carry this on over to the board and relay it to him?
Yeah, I told him that you had those conversations, and I did too.
Okay, that's fine. The other thing I've got, my concern is, and you spoke on it already, was about hiring another assistant principal. Now, I know back when Mr. Morris and Bridges were here, I was heavily involved in the school helping out on various things. And I really personally don't think we need another assistant principal. They don't cover lunchroom anymore. We had a young lady that had over 20 years experience here. She come to you twice asking for a meeting and you didn't have time for her. She was asked, when do I take my lunch? She was told, whenever. That's not my problem. We don't need that attitude here. I want you board members to think you are his boss. He is not your boss. Thank you.
When you're talking about, this actually is not, I understand. I hope the concern is working. But anyway, this is when you were talking about hiring administration to deal with problems. Would you not consider hiring more teachers and getting smaller classes? Because from experience, if you have fewer students in your class, you're going to have fewer problems because there's not so much emotion going on. And you're going to be able to handle things better. And then somebody else doesn't have to handle it. I mean, just from being there and going through it, oh my goodness, having fewer children. And then an administrator wouldn't have to come in and solve that problem. I mean, if you've got 30-some kids in there, yes, you're going to have some problems. And you're going to need somebody to come in and help you with that. But if you've got more teachers, smaller classes, you're going to be able to handle your problem and not have to have somebody else.
Yes, ma'am. I agree with you 100%.
And
Don't
then
have
when
an
you
empty
talk about
classroom.
the money, Steve, then the monies would be used a different way.
We don't have an empty classroom anywhere.
We don't
We're
have a
utilizing
single.
every single classroom we have.
We're going to be,
I agree with you 100%. That would make things a lot better.
right? Next public comments, Donnie Husson. Yes. That's fine. We hear you.
Go ahead.
As far as the item, we were going to appoint Brian and Dr. Apple as senators of the Down Corporation. That really doesn't need Lanesville Community School Corporation action. And Down Corporation was set up during my tenure as a separate corporation away from the school corporation. You really need to call a meeting of the Endowment Corporation and appoint you guys as the signers. Follow me? The Endowment Corporation is its own separate entity, so the school corporation can't appoint signers to your endowment corporation because it is a separate entity organized under the IRS statute. It's a separate standalone entity. Officers of the Endowment Corporation and articles of incorporation are named by office, and they are the superintendent, the president of Lanesville Schools, and the treasurer without names, titles. So what the bank needs is the president of the Lane School Board to be named as an authorized signer, and the superintendent of Lane Schools, Brian Apple, to be named as a signer. So I don't know if the board really has to take action. You really need to call a meeting of your endowment board corporation, which is separate, but it's majority of you, and appoint the signer.
Can I ask a question to make sure I follow you? So basically then, if the endowment corporation is a separate corporation, then the
It's separate.
school board really doesn't have the authority.
The only
to-
relationship the school board has, the endowment corporation was set up when the county first started getting riverboat funds.
Sure.
The first couple ones, we bought them in, then we bought something else.
Sure.
Well, at that point, Lanesville Community Schools was still pretty small. We didn't know what to do with it.
Mhm.
So Dr. Ney,
It's a nice problem to have.
yeah, Dr. Ney established a separate endowment corporation to keep it away from the school, to be able to do things to help our educational programs. We put $60,000, they had to rebuild the baseball field.
Right.
So we put $60,000 in that. We gave Mark Lombardi $100 or so to redo all the track area and things like that. We bought equipment for the school. So the endowment corporation is completely separate from the school corporation. But the officers, superintendent, the board president, maybe the board vice president, I don't know, it's in the articles. I gave you a copy of that. And the township trustee to bring the community part.
So that's
You-
nothing that we have the
So we don't
authority to
have
No,
vote
you
on.
just need you just, as officers of the endowment corporation, you need to call a quick meeting and say, on April 29th, we appointed the following signers. Ryan Lind as Lanesville Community Corporation, School Corporation President, Brian Apple as Lanesville Community School Board.
That's all.
Superintendent, So articles of the endowment name the officers by title.
Okay.
We just need to know the names of the
Yeah.
titles that are your senators. Follow me?
Thank
Yeah.
you, Donnie.
Thanks, Donnie.
I honestly didn't know that. Thank you.
Huh?
I didn't know that it was a separate.
They're separate.
Thanks, Donnie.
And if Brian don't have a copy of the articles, I got it. I can give it to them.
Thank
Or
you.
you can go on and search and say, looks like it. Okay. That's another issue, because it was set up and only a few people knew about it in the administration on the board. Some of the years, it was, you have a corporation that required to fill out an annual statement to the state. Sometimes those reports weren't filed, so we were administratively dissolved. And Steve's here, it took probably a month and a half, so coordinating, we protected them against. You're in good standing.
Okay. That's good to know.
Thanks, Donnie. Next is Mike Wolf. Okay. Okay. Next up is Margot Stewart to discuss our recent district FFA competition and results.
Hello, everyone. So, like it says, I am the District 11 president for Indiana FFA. And if you're not familiar with how that works, so Indiana FFA is broken into 12 different districts. And Lanesville is lucky enough to be in District 11. We are actually one of the biggest districts in the state of Indiana. We have 24 chapters, so 24 schools that are a part of our district. That goes all the way up to Columbus, to New Washington, down to South Central, and then to Crawford County. So we have a very wide spread of all of our schools. And last June, I was elected as the district president. And then this June, I will be giving up my term. But a few of my roles include planning all the district contests, like your welding chapter meeting, LDEs, which was hosted here, serving on the Indiana FFA executive committee, and just attending chapters throughout the year of service. So the contest that was hosted here was the leadership development events. This is a contest that takes literally all day. We were here at 8 o'clock. We didn't get out of here, I think, until probably 4 o'clock, right? I think so. Yeah. So we have 27 contests go on that day, and your leadership development events are to help those members develop traits that they can take on after high school. So you have things which I compete in ag sales. Janine Sharp competed in demonstrations, a food science demonstration. You have public speaking. You have extemporaneous public speaking, where they give you just a note card and you got to go in and say a 5-minute speech on it. So it's a lot of different ways to build up how you're going to go on after high school. And it's a good way to kind of go ahead and get started on that. So it was a huge honor for us to have this at Lanesville. It's the first year that it's ever been here, and it has been a very long time since Harrison County has hosted a district contest or had a district president. So like Mr. Miller said, we had over 200 members compete, and then we had 18 chapters present, and then 98 judges. And then along with those 27 contests, thank you, Mr. Lynn, for judging, and everyone else in the community. Mr. Bridges came in and said hi at the beginning. But this
5 minutes of fame.
Yes, yeah. But we took over the entire school. We went over to the elementary. The only classrooms that we didn't take were the ones past the elementary office. We took everything else and then everything over here. So it was a long day of preparing. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that helped out with that, our teachers and staff. I know that can be scary whenever you're like, get an email from the principals and it's like, have your room clean on March 1st and having all these kids come in. But I just want to say thank you all for having everything ready. Miss Stilger was willing to help out in everything, making sure that all the money was taken care of, and then also being there at 7 a.m. in the morning to make sure to get all the kids coming in. And then Mr. Hancock and Miss Shingleton, they did an amazing job. And when I tell you, like, our staff, everyone just said we did a great job. They came up with Wi-Fi codes, so we didn't have to take care of that during the day. They took on any technical difficulties that we had. So thank you all so much for that. We appreciate that. And then also, if everyone that judged from Lanesville and Harrison County, that was just awesome. Everyone that was not from Harrison County came up to me and they were like, it's crazy how much your community came out to support. And then also the cafeteria staff gave up their entire kitchen and the cafeteria to make all the, so we could make all the food. We could have lunch in here. Mandy helped out with that as well. And then Miss Simcoe also was helping throughout the week prepare for that because we had to print off everything. So me and Miss Adams were in charge of making the schedule, printing out every kid's materials that they had. Some kids had lots of materials. And so just making sure that the day goes smoothly. She was awesome with that. And thank you to the school board for just allowing us to have this contest. It means a lot to me, to District 11 and Indiana FFA. And then I also, a huge thank you, Mr. Miller. I had people come up to me one after another. So the Board of Trustees for Indiana FFA, she's actually a district office. She's a district advisor for Hope, Indiana. And she was my district advisor last year when I served as reporter. And she came up to me and she said, Margot, you do not know how important it is that your principal was here today. He made sure that everyone had walkie-talkies. He made sure that if anybody needed anything, he just did everything for the contest. So, and hearing all the things from the rest of the executive committee, the district presidents and section directors in Indiana FFA, it was awesome what Lanesville was able to bring to the table. So thank you all so much for that. And then, so like I said, my term is up in June, but that is when at state convention, that is also on your all's agenda, I believe, passing that. So I will go in June and give up my term. I'll elect the new officers. We had our district interviews last Thursday up in Seymour. So really, we are done with all our district events. And then we also have several people competing from the Lanesville chapter. So overall, we had 14 members compete in District 11 contest. And we had, for third place, we had Laura Langdon. She placed third in Discovery Prepared Public Speaking. Aiden Whitehouse placed third at Freshman Creed. Alex Morris at third at Extemporaneous Public Speaking. Janine Sharp at third for a traditional scrapbook. And then for second place, we had Emma Simcoe for prepared public speaking, Jayla Messina for ag business demo. And then for your first place will go on to compete at state convention. And that's where everyone that placed first here at district contest will go on to Purdue and West Lafayette to compete. So Addie Smith placed first for freshman prepared public speaking. Alex Morris and Janine Sharp placed first for food science demo, and then I placed first for ag sales presentation. So we have a very
Ag sales presentation, really?
yeah.
I can't imagine.
So we have a very busy week in June. Like I said, we'll have everybody competing, and then hopefully also we should have one member receiving their Hoosier degree. So that's the highest degree that you can earn other than your American degree. Only 1% of FFA members receive their American degree. So, but a Hoosier degree is the highest degree in FFA that you can get at the state level. So that is everything for district. But this is kind of a bittersweet moment because now I'm actually not the Lanesville FFA president anymore. Last Tuesday, we had our banquet. And that is where we elected our new officer team. So I probably won't see you all standing up here again. But I would like to introduce you all to Janine Sharp. She is going to be the 2025-2026 Lanesville FFA president. And then... And then, so the rest of our officer team for 2025 and 2026 includes Vice President Jayla Messina, Secretary Alex Morris, Treasurer Jillian Kramer, Reporter Alora Langdon, Sentinel Hunter Baumgart, and Student Advisor Aiden Whitehouse. And then Miss Shelby Adams will be serving as our advisor again this year. So, thank you all.
Thanks, Margot.
I think our future is in good hands with this kid right here. I'm telling you right now. I've known Margot since she was born, okay? But you're impressive, kid. You did a great job, And thank you for doing all your work for FFA and representing wonderfully well District 11. And we appreciate all you have done. And we thank you for that.
Next on the agenda is number 10, the approve the resignation of high school girls basketball coach. She would like to say a few words.
Just come up here.
When you come up, you tell us you're not gonna read.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we don't get a second, you got to stay, right?
That's what I was going to say. Who's going to make that motion?
Yeah, I'm not making it.
Can't see over the microphone, so just out of respect and sincere appreciation for everyone here, the entire community. I mean, I felt like I needed to come here in person. It's not been an easy decision. It wasn't an easy decision to come here, but it's been one of the best decisions that I've made in my life, and I have a lot of people here to thank. You have a wonderful community. I want to say to you all, please keep fighting for your school. Keep fighting the good fight for your community and what you want here, because Lanesville is truly special. It's no place like I've ever been, and I've been around a lot of places, and this is a truly special place with special people, and the community that you have here is just tremendous. And you surround your people. You surrounded me and my family. You accepted us for everything that we brought. And we truly, truly appreciate that. The wonderful relationships that we have made here will be relationships that will last a lifetime. It's been a blast. And like I said in my post, it's been the time of my life. And I hope you all enjoyed the ride along with it. But you embraced us all and keep embracing your kids. You have wonderful programs here, not just your athletics, but you listen to all the things that are brought here, your concern for your schools, community, and growing your community, but also keeping Lanesville. And I always say that when people ask me about Lanesville, and my answer is always, it's Lanesville. It is Lanesville, and that's truly from my heart, truly special. I love you all, and I hope to always be an honorary member of your community. I hope to always be able to walk through those doors and continue to feel the love that I felt these last 7 years. But thank you again.
Thanks, Angie.
Before we discuss this, I am going to say 7 years I've driven Angie and the team, and we have had more fun. See, this is the kind of stuff you get after we made it. Okay. Anyway, winning is fun. Don't let anybody tell you it's not, because it's fun. Okay, and we have had a lot of fun. And I want to personally, just me, thank you for giving us so much fun. Okay, I mean, a couple times in Indianapolis. I mean, come on, right? That doesn't ever happen. It was great. And I got to see the ground floor of Cambridge, and all that stuff, the basement. It was wonderful, even the basement's cool there. Okay. I mean, I can never say thanks enough for that. We've had fun. And here's the part again. I have a hard time talking about this one, but when I see one of my kids up on the screen outside of Cambridge, one of our kids, and I say my kid, that's cool. I'm walking down the street and our kid is up on the marquee. Thanks. That was fun. I enjoyed it. Joe, I loved talking with you, and I'm planning on doing more of that somewhere along the way. But we always got in trouble for talking too much, but that's okay. We had a lot of fun. I learned a lot of stuff, and just some stuff we just didn't really, it wasn't that big a deal. All right, but anyway, but it was good. Me personally, thank you.
To piggyback off of that, I think we're going to see for many, many years, for 10 plus years, the leadership that Angie had with this, especially a senior group, seniors last year, how much they cared about just the school kids. Again, you're going to see that in school kids for at least 10 more years. It's going to be something that we probably won't ever see matched again. I want to say thank you.
Now, if we don't get a second on this or even a motion,
Yeah,
she has
she
to
can't
stay,
go,
right? That's what
right.
I'm on. So good luck with that one.
Okay, can I get a motion and a second to approve?
I'll reluctantly make the motion to accept Angie Hitton's resignation. Reluctant.
I will reluctantly second. Not one of my favorite things.
Live now?
If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. The next item is the approval to create a junior senior high school assistant principal position. Could I get a motion and a second to approve?
Can we have a little bit of discussion on that? I know Dr. Apple has touched on it, but would you mind? Is that okay? If
Yeah.
The board has some discussion. I'm a mother, so I always, every time I sit up here, I think about the students, what's in the best interest of the students, and it's always, to take care of the teachers, because the teachers then have this direct contact with the students. But if you're a mother of an 8th grader, then you came to a meeting a couple of, about a month ago, where Ms. Morgan presented to us what the new requirements for a high school diploma are. And then you walk out of this cafeteria with your 8th grader who's a very bright child, and says, I'm not going to be able to graduate high school. It's too much. The new diploma requirements, if you, and just for those that maybe don't know, I'll share, they have created 3 tracks. There's an enrollment track, which means that you're college bound. There's an employment track, which would be like your prosser. And then there's an enlistment, which would be the goal to join the military. To have an enlistment diploma, and if you want an enlistment honors plus diploma, by the time you graduate high school, you have to have 650 service hours logged. I don't know how a child is supposed to do their homework. They're supposed to do these service hours. They're supposed to eat dinner with their family. What if they get sick and miss a couple of days and they're out of they can't complete these hours? They're also expected to be involved in sports. They're expected to have leadership roles in clubs and different activities. And so to support the kids that want this, and that's what I look at. Like, not every kid's going to want an enlistment honors plus diploma, but if they want one, we should have in place all of the pieces that enable them to get that. And I don't know, we don't have administrators, to my knowledge, currently that have the time to help encourage these kids, to help sit down with these kids and look for ways to get the service hours, to track the service hours, to get the internships, to track the hours in the internships. And so I understand the concern that it's not a classroom position. It's not a classroom position. But by the time you're in high school, there's a lot that also happens outside of the classroom that can help you achieve your goal as a student, to help you get the diploma you want, to then start your post-high school life the way you want it, whether it's military, employment, technical programs, or college. And I think that's what we need to be about. What can we put in place to help our students, when they leave here, they're ready to do what they what they want to do, what their definition, what their picture of success looks like. And so just, those are my 2 cents as a mom of a eighth grader who has listened to what the new diploma requirements are.
Also, this position can require add-ons as time goes on, as things change. You look at it, okay, I get it. Is it gonna affect teachers? No. We debate this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, as long as it didn't affect teacher raises, not gonna happen, not gonna affect that. And I get where you're going, Susan, like I do. And as we get more room, we can put teachers in those positions. And I'm fully aware of that. I'm right there with you. And nobody wants a teacher more than me, okay? I'm telling you. You got, 32 kids in a classroom, you want to get it down. I get that. Been there and done that. We've had those situations back in the day. I get it. That's not going to impact that. I don't see that impacting that at this point. Positions like this, we're in the minority. You look at these schools. I did research. I did my research. I looked at the schools in our area about the same size. They have the same basic concept that we're looking at right here. Okay. Is it going to free up time for Eric? Yes. Is it going to help with discipline? Yes. Teacher evaluation? Yes. Those things are going to help. So I can justify it that way. We're helping kids keep a safe environment. If we're helping teachers be able to teach in a safe environment, I can rationalize it. If it leads to some other, if we can add on duties as time goes on, I can rationalize it then too. That's where I am right now.
Any other comments? Could I get a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item is agenda or approval of MOU with Harrison County Sheriff's Department for resource officer.
And briefly, one of the best things in my time here in Harrison County, and thank you to the council, Donnie, thank you guys. One of the best things that has happened directly for us school corporations through the county is the county council and commissioners have agreed to pick up the SROs for all the school corporations, which then frees up money through the school safety grant for us to do various things to further enhance safety. As we were going through this, one thing that we noticed is we didn't have, not just us, other corporations in our county didn't have an MOU with the sheriff's department for the school resource officers. Talked to the sheriff's department, they said, no, it's never been there. So we have all worked together to create that, us and corporations in the county, and I'm asking you guys to sign into that. But it's coming from a truly wonderful thing, and I can't thank the county council enough for doing what they're doing. It truly will be a great benefit for our school corporation, but also to help improve the safety of the students of Lanesville and Harrison County. So thank you to the county council, but that is what I'm asking you to sign now. Memorandum of Understanding.
Could I get a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the MOU with the Harrison County Sheriff's Department for the resource officer.
I'll second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item's number 13. Approve the use of $122,000 to be used to purchase technology that would otherwise need to be financed on our upcoming lease. The technology will include new staff workstations and accessories, new teacher devices and accessories that will better support e-learning, and the purchase of needed software to utilize and manage said equipment.
Yeah, and what this is, and then here later you'll do the one-to-one for students. But what we found a couple years ago, when the state said you can only do 3 asynchronous learning days, we've now had to move to some synchronous learning days. Talking with our teachers, the devices that we had, the Chromebooks that we gave to them, were not sufficient for that. And so we looked at several different options. We looked at more expensive laptops and taking away the desktops, having some conversations with teachers, doing some different things. Thank you to Miss Boone. She had what we think we're going to go with, kind of a more advanced Chromebook. She used it on some synchronous days and said it works pretty good. But then also with those, you can't link directly to the new boards that we bought. And so working a combination of mobile devices that will allow teachers to work better from home and wherever else they need, but then also the desktops that will interface with the new boards that we bought for everybody. So that's what we're asking for here.
Could I get a motion and second to approve?
I'll make the motion that we approve the use of $120,000 to purchase some technology that's needed.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the next item is the approval of a new lease agreement for one-to-one program.
And this is the student part of that. This is allowing us to get into a lease agreement to do the Chromebooks for the older kids and the iPads for the younger ones. That way we can work one-to-one with all the platforms and textbooks that we have.
Dr. Apple, how long do those lease agreements run?
Are they, Mr. Hancock, are they 4 years? 4 years.
4 years? Okay. We were one of the first schools around that did one-on-one.
The first that I knew of, yes.
Could I get a motion and second to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve the new lease agreement for the one-to-one program.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We are going to skip number 16, or number 15, sorry. Okay, number 16 is the approval and disposal of 37 projectors replaced by the new line boards and 1 Acer Chromebook broken and 3 laser jet printers that's broken. Can I get a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the disposal of them.
I'll second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, item number 17 is the first readings of the following proposed LCSC policies: the 7,000s, which is property, the 8,000s, which is operations, and the 9,000s, that's relations.
And I'll get those to you guys.
Number 18 is the approve the resignation of Sue Demers as Demers as Prosser bus driver. Could I get a motion and a second to approve?
Let me say something first. Sue is wonderful, and we're going to miss her greatly.
She's a wonderful, wonderful
And
lady.
she is, and she'll step in. It doesn't matter if she can. She'll pick up a bus route if somebody can't do it. She drives that Prosser route. That's a tough one every day. She's one. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Sue, thank you. Okay, from me and the board, and I'll speak for the board.
Mhm.
She's awesome, and we're going to miss her, and I get it. And she's going back to Alaska, I think, isn't that right, Dr. Apple?
Yes, sir.
Her family's from there, and her dad's up there, and aging. I get it. She's going up there. I mean, her parent is aging, not her. Sue's the same age as she always was. But she's a good lady, and we're going to miss her. Okay, there you go.
And that will be at the end of the year. She is driving.
Yeah,
I
thank
was-
you.
I was
That's
gonna
good,
ask.
because that's
Yeah.
awesome. And it's finding bus drivers. You guys, if you got any CDLs out there want to drive a bus, let us know. Believe me, it's difficult to find bus drivers, especially a keeper like this one.
Could I get a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make a motion we approve it, not happily, but
I'll second it.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Approve the resignation of Terry Summers as a full-time cafeteria worker at the end of the school year. Could I get a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Any discussion?
Terry's a peach too. We like her, but she's just going to be a sub now. So she's just going to go to a sub. So that's good.
If
She
not,
takes care of me back there. I'm sorry. She takes care of me in the cafeteria.
all those in favor say aye.
Sorry.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Approve the hiring of Terry Summers as part-time cafeteria substitute beginning the 2025-26 school year.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, can I get a second? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, I'm going to need some help on this name. I apologize. Approve the hiring of
Rhiannon.
Rihanna.
Say it.
Yeah,
Kaegbein.
just like Fleetwood Mac. Rhiannon.
Cake bine?
From part-time to full-time cafeteria worker at the beginning of the 25-26 school year. Could I get a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item number 22, approve Indiana State FFA Convention, June 15th through the 19th at Purdue University. Margot touched on this. Eric, do you want to say anything?
Sorry, about the Purdue University
Yeah.
trip. Yeah, it's just another great opportunity for our kids. You know, the more experience and the more exposure they get to these kinds of things, the better, the more confident they become as individuals and leaders. There's not a doubt in my mind. One thing I'll say about tying to the Washington, D.C. trip, every person that saw our group of kids came up and complimented us about how good they behaved, how awesome they were. And FFA kids are absolutely no different than them. So I think it's
I've received a few emails from some parents on the trip as well.
We have
that
to.
talked about that.
Really, really good.
Is Margot speaking at this?
are you speaking?
She already
She's
has.
But
She's a dandy here.
Don't you think
Jane's a
these?
good speaker, too.
Yeah.
She is.
And-
Is Janine? Yeah.
Yeah.
She's good.
Good.
And don't you think, Mr. Miller, that these kind of trips make school a little more interesting? They're more interested to come to school because they've got, it's more meaningful, and they've got the closer relationships with their peers. Yeah.
Could I get a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Approve the following field trips. 8th grade field trip to the movies, date pending. 2nd grade going to the Science Center. 5th grade going to see Louisville Bats play baseball. 3rd grade going to the Louisville Zoo. 10th grade going to Harrison County Courthouse. Kindergarten going to Wilston Ranch in Paoli. Could I have a motion and a second to approve?
Motion to approve. And I'll second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Number 24, the approval of Polly's Freeze fundraiser for the class of 2027 on April 22nd, and the high school volleyball bake sale / cookout during Derby Yard sales on May 3rd. That was a mouthful. What was that?
They're up in the parking lot.
I was
Okay.
going to ask if that's
They do really well up here.
Okay.
okay.
Okay, could I have a motion and a second to approve?
I'll make the motion. We approve those fundraisers.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, I want to make a comment. Today's Mrs. Rothrock's birthday, so just want to say happy birthday.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Happy birthday.
Item agenda number 25 is public comments that's not related to or that was not related to the agenda items. I've got Donnie Hussong and Mike Wolf said they want to be on that list.
Thanks for this time. She told me I had 3, but I got notes.
Say what you got to say.
I want to. Let me introduce myself. Most everybody knows me. I'm Donnie Hussong. I had the privilege of being appointed to the interim board of Lanesville Community School Corporation when it first organized. That was in 1989. I also had the privilege the following 23 years to be elected to the board of directors of the Lanesville Community School Corporation. Those were probably 23 of the best years of my life. Earlier tonight, Coach Hinton talked about Lanesville as a special place. And she's right. Lanesville's a damn special place. I've been honored to have the trust of at least 4 of the board members in recent months to seek my advice, opinion, and counsel on matters related to your positions as members of the school board. I hope this was a result of your respect for my tenure on this board and the experience I've gained over my years of public service. Tonight, I ask for your indulgence, patience, and respect for my experience, and allow me the opportunity to address the issues that I feel are of critical importance to this board and this school community, and grant me the opportunity to speak openly about them without the constraints of a stopwatch, while trying to be factual and to the point. I've got notes. I'll read my notes. This is pretty darn easy to put together when you're sitting in your office. Then as you drive around, you think of things, you keep scratching, you keep changing, because I think 1 minute I told myself it's because you don't know what in the hell you're talking about. But the next minute, no, you're like this because you sincerely believe in what you're going to say. I don't know if anybody, there's a few in here old enough to remember the history of Lanesville schools, but prior to 1970, I'm going to give you all, if I bore you, just let me know. But prior to 1970, every little township, every little community in the state of Indiana had its own little one-room school. There was a school in Elizabeth. There was a school in Laconia. There was a school in Mockport. There was a school in New Amsterdam. 1971, the state of Indiana passed the School Reorganization Act that required all those little community schools to come together into school corporations of at least 1,000 students. And you started seeing towns lose their schools and lose their identities. But there was one little tough little town in this state that said, hell no, we're not going to consolidate. We want to keep independent. That was Lanesville Schools. Well, they said, okay, you can do that, but you have to remain under a trusteeship. So until 1989, we were a trustee-operated school system, which meant the elected township trustee was, in fact, the school board. The high school principal was the superintendent. 1989, we started having growing pains. State Board of Education was in charge of granting a school corporation or a trustee system, a school corporation, a building program. And you had to have a building permit by the State Board of Education to build. We needed to build. Sorry, you're not an organized school corporation. So we took it upon ourselves to get organized. Sorry, you don't have 1,000 students. We fought and fought, and we got appeals, and we got appeals. We were allowed to reorganize as Lanesville Community School Corporation. I think at the time our total student population was under 600, well below the 1,000. But what helped us is they looked back at the history of Lanesville schools since 1971, when we became no longer a small community of the Reorganization Act. From 1971 to 1993, they saw where Lanesville schools always exceeded state standards, both in academic excellence, graduation rates, and community pride. That tradition carried on from 1990 when we reorganized through recent years. Lanesville Schools has always been a special place. It always will be a special place. And why is that? Because in those early years, people remember the fight we had to go through. People remember the times this community come together when 250 of us went to Indianapolis to ask the state tax control board to raise our taxes so we could build onto our schools. There was 250 in favor. We took 2 school buses and other people drove. There was 10 people opposed to it. We had to fight 3 appeals to satisfy those 10 people's
efforts to stop us, and we kept beating it. And I remember we were sitting in that meeting, and there were 10 people on the board of zoning, or tax control board, of appeals. Every one of them looked down, and you could tell by the looks on their faces, they were not in our favor. There was a big push in the state of Indiana at that time to keep taxes low, and we were going to raise rates here to build a school for less than 600 kids. Well, it was crazy. You could just tell that's what they thought. Got to the very last guy at the end of the row, who was the chairman of the committee, and he had his glasses, and he was sitting at his desk, and I'll never forget this. He took his glasses down his nose, and he looked out at us and said, "You mean you people want me to raise your taxes?" And all 250 people stood up, and he put his gavel down and said, "Passed." It was approved. That's the kind of gut and determination the Lanesville community has. That's the kind of effort, that's the kind of commitment the people that have grown up in this school community have. I'm a graduate of 1974. I'm a proud graduate of 1974. My sons, my daughter graduated this class. I have grandchildren attending here, and you might find this hard to believe, but I have great-grandchildren attending here. So that, in my opinion, not only my experience, but I'm sure it's the same to a lot of people out there, that is what the culture of Lanesville Community Schools is all about. We are different than anybody else because there's not many schools in the state of Indiana that has this culture, this history. And that's what makes us unique, makes us proud, and in some people's eyes make us arrogant SOBs, but it's because we love this community and we love this school. The other night, March 18th, the last meeting you guys had, it was the first one I attended in a while. And again, I have 23 years experience on a board, and I've been to all kinds of meetings. Most of them were pretty smooth. But last night, last meeting, it amazed me when I walked into the room and everybody was seated. It might have been a contentious issue. I mean, there were issues that were different, and I know there were feelings on both sides. But the tension in this room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I was almost brought to tears by what I saw at that meeting. I've never experienced that much tension between factions in this school. And I'm sure on both sides, there's legitimate reasons for it. Something in the last 5, 6, 7 years, 2 years, I don't know what, but something has been allowed to be a little bit of an irritant between certain parties, and it has grown and grown and grown and has festered, and we've got to the point where there's a lack of distrust. This is just my perception. If I'm wrong, please let me know, and you can correct me. But something's allowed to happen, and it's driving our school apart, in my opinion. Excuse me, let me take a breath. After that meeting, I never thought I'd hear both first and second, not after that meeting. Excuse me, I'm jumping ahead of my notes. I never thought I'd hear personally both first and secondhand statements from staff that say, I just try to get through the day. Earlier in prior years, at least in the 23 years I served, the majority of people who worked here loved it here, and I never thought I'd ever hear any of them say, I'm just trying to get through the day. I never thought I'd hear board members, current or past, make comments that, in my opinion, diminish the efforts of the professional staff that you have here. And I've heard that a couple times. That's not the Lanesville culture. This culture is what allowed us or drove us to be the little engine that could. And we did. We exceeded state standards, we exceeded state graduation rates, and we fostered a spirit of collaboration, cooperation, and a desire by everyone to be our best and not just to hope to get through the day. So what's caused that? I don't know. I really don't know. But my observations at that meeting and what I've heard about other meetings, maybe the lack of distrust, like I say, started a long time ago, and it's been allowed to grow, not because of a willingness to be mean or difficult to someone, but maybe by a lack of true understanding what our real duties, jobs, what my lane is, what I'm supposed to do. Transparency is a big thing. The open door law. Whenever a school board meets, it must be sure the meeting is conducted in accordance with the requirements of the open door law. This law governs three main issues related to board meetings. And for point of reference, this is from the ISBA training manual. The law governs three main issues related to board meetings. One, whether a meeting must be open to the public or may be held without public present, defined as an executive session. Two, how to give public notice of the board's meetings. And three, required memoranda and or minutes of the meetings. The intent of the open door law is that official action of public agencies, including school boards, be conducted and taken only so that the public may be fully informed. Based on this principle, the vast majority of school board meetings will be open or public meetings. According to the open door law, meetings of public agencies must be open for the purpose of permitting members of the public to observe and record them. And it references Indiana Code 5-14-1.35-3. It is important to note that as of July 1st, 2022, the open door law requires public comment at meetings of the school board. Therefore, school boards by law must permit members of the public to speak at designated times on a school board agenda. The board president should be very familiar with policy or rules in order to ensure that the public comments are heard and do not interfere with the board's completion of business items on its agenda. So it doesn't say anything about time limits. Time limits are important because sometimes people want to get up here and ramble on kind of like me. And if you limit them to 3 or 4 minutes, you can get on with your business. But then there are times when maybe there's something important enough going on that people might need to ramble on a little bit. This is also from the State School Board Association's manual. This is relatively new. When I talk about the public access counselor in 1999, Governor O'Bannon established the Office of Indiana Public Access Counselor. That is the individual who has supervisory control and opinion over matters pertaining to the Indiana open door law. And that is a law in the state of Indiana, the open door law. So the Indiana Public Access Counselor addressed the question dated October 18th, 2022. And the question was, may school boards restrict public comments to items listed on an agenda? The advisory opinion concluded that limiting subject matter for public comment at school board meetings to agenda items is not appropriate under the new statute. Constituents should be able to speak on items that are not explicitly listed on an agenda, yet may still be germane to school board business overall. So that was relatively new. This is from the Indiana School Board Association. They put out a monthly magazine. I don't get it anymore, but you can find it. It's written by Dr. Michael Adamson. He's the director of board services. Comment of his article is, are your executive sessions lawful? Executive sessions are normal occurrences for all Indiana school boards, and the ability to meet in private without an audience is a statutory privilege. However, executive sessions are only lawful for a limited number of reasons, and boards who meet in private for other than specific statutory reasons can face reprimands, be assessed fines, or have former decisions rescinded until they are properly decided in a public meeting. It is a pretty bad but worse than legal consequence. It is damage to a board's integrity in the eyes of its constituents. That was just one paragraph of what all he says. Basically, there are carve-outs for executive sessions. The carve-outs are I'm jumping ahead. I'm skipping a few points because this gets into what is a meeting, what is official action, and maybe we ought to talk about that first. What is official action? Official action means to receive information, deliberate, make recommendations, establish policy, make decisions, or take final action. So official action, all those things have to be done in public. When must the public agency give notice of an executive session? Public notice of an executive session must be given 48 hours in advance of every session, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays, and must state the time, date, location, and subject matter by reference to the specific statutory exception and language of the exception under which an executive session may be had. So not only can you say the subject, you have to cite code. And sometimes there's a lot of confusion, and I'll be the first to admit, because I've been on a few where we thought we'd just have an exception, but it wasn't an actual topic that you can have an executive session on. So those actual topics, first it talks about executive sessions and says, as used in this section, public official means a person who is a member of a governing body or public agency, or whose tenure and compensation are fixed by law and who executes an oath. Executive sessions may be held only in the following instances: where authorized by federal or state statute, for discussion of strategy with respect to any of the following. And it says for discussion of strategy with respect to any of the following: collective bargaining, initiation of litigation or litigation as either pending or has been threatened specifically in writing. As used in this cause, litigation includes any judicial action or administrative law proceeding under the federal or state law. It goes on for other reasons: the implementation of security systems, the purchase or lease of real property by the governing body up to the time a contract or option to purchase a lease is executed by the property, school consolidation. However, all such strategy discussions must be necessary for competitive. Let me start over. I'm getting mouth dry, sorry. However, all such strategy discussions must be necessary for competitive or bargaining reasons and may not include competitive or bargaining adversaries. I don't know what that has to do with school. That's under school consolidation. For discussion of reassessment, design, and implementation of school safety and security measures. This is one where I think I noticed, this is the one that caught me to look. I'm going to stop here for a minute. Tonight, I was prepared to do something completely different than I am now. Tonight, I was prepared to come up and just start beating on this and saying, you're not doing it right, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't. And submit a formal complaint to the Indiana Public Access Counselor, but I thought, don't do that. That's not beholden to the culture of Lanesville by starting to be confrontational before you even have a chance to talk to people. So that didn't happen, so I'm taking my chance maybe to talk tonight. I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I know where to look, and these are what the codes and the laws say. So this thing is item 4. The reason you can have executive session: interviews and negotiations with industrial or commercial prospects, not partners, prospects or agents of industrial or commercial prospects by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, the Office of Tourism and Development, the Indiana Finance Authority, the Ports of Indiana, an Economic Development Commission, the Indiana State Department of Agriculture, a local economic development organization that is a nonprofit corporation, a governing body of a political subdivision. So I went a little bit deeper into the code, and I said, what is meant by interviews with industrial commercial prospects? It specifically said it refers to, in Harrison County, we have an economic development corporation. We might want to get a business to come in. That's what this is about, bringing businesses into your community and what kind of incentives can you offer. It doesn't mean to cover a governmental entity's ability to sit down with a vendor and talk about services that they want that vendor to provide for them, because that has to be done in public. It can't be hidden in executive. And the solar project is what I was going to bring up. I just don't think that was done properly by taking those kind of discussions in executive session, hiding them from the public, and then wondering why everybody's upset. Transparency, openness, and public discussion, public buy-in is important. There are more items. I'm not going through them all. I made my point with that one. You may not agree with me, but that was my point. At the end of all these, there's a commentary. A goal of a government unit is to schedule executive sessions sparingly. They should not be held regularly, nor should they be a standing meeting on a governing body's schedule. A governing body should hold only a handful of them a year, if at all. These sessions are heavily scrutinized by the public access counselor. And that was the end of that statement. So again, I got a lot more to say, but I'm going to cut it off because my throat's getting dry and I'm sounding like I'm stumbling, but I'm not. I think I do not doubt the good intentions of everybody sitting at this table. I think school governance, by the stack of laws that I got, just about one or two issues, is pretty complex. And when you try to read these things, it's confusing as heck. So I may even defer to Lynn as an attorney to kind of go through them and make sure I'm thinking of them correctly. There was a couple comments that said the interpretations of the open door law are literal. In other words, it means what it says. You don't have the ability to, and I'm not criticizing anyone, you don't have the ability to change the word prospects to partners. The code says prospects. So that makes it more clear that these are prospects. These are people you want to bring in and lure them in and offer them something to contribute to your community. That's what's limited to economic development, tourism, and that type of thing. It's in code also. Executive session, the reasons for them are outlined for every public agency in the state of Indiana under code. They're not specific to schools. So there's things in here that are listed that aren't even in the venue of a school corporation. So I'm going to try to wrap it up. The open door law, whenever a school board meets, it must be sure that the meeting is conducted in accordance with the requirements of the open door law. This law governs three main issues related to school board meetings. I think I've read that already, haven't I?
Mm-hmm. It's okay.
Same manual, different page. This is, again, from the SBA training manual. It talks about community and public relations. There's a couple paragraphs before, but I'm not with the first one. The relationship between the school board and the community it serves is crucial to the sense of well-being in any school corporation. Developing positive community and public relations strategies are not cover-up tactics for the challenging issues that a school corporation may be facing. In other words, involve your community and they'll probably help you out. It is fair to say that in every school corporation, there are more issues to praise than to criticize, and certainly issues that need correcting should be addressed, just not overemphasized. Accentuating the positive aspects of corporation helps to instill confidence in the school corporation and its administration, as well as faith in the governance leadership. Equally important is that a board always remains sensitive to their community's concerns, even if their concerns are misaligned or unfounded. The goal of community and public relations is to create a positive relationship built on mutual trust and respect. Community concerns can represent teachable moments where the board can educate the community regarding why certain positions must be assumed or why decisions have been rendered in a particular manner. Taking time to explain decisions and policies can pay huge dividends in developing and maintaining strong public relations. And again, I don't intend to be critical of anybody here because, again, it's a challenging issue. But I think some of the observances I had at that meeting where I just sensed tension might be because everybody's so busy doing their own thing, we forget about there are other people who may have some part to play, something to say, some little piece of wisdom we didn't even think about that might help this whole thing better. You know, I'm sure it's very, very difficult to come to Lanesville community as unique, challenging, and sometimes hard-headed as we are, and try to incorporate ways that were done in New York or some other large city or some other large school corporation. We are a one facility school corporation. I always take pride in saying we have K through 12 under one roof. Our seniors mentor our elementary kids. Our elementary kids look up to our seniors. They see each other every day in the hall. It's a sense of family. It's a sense of belonging. And there aren't many corporations in the state, no matter how long you've worked there, how experienced you are, that you've ever felt that same type of sense coming from North Madison into Lanesville or some other big corporation. We're different. We're unique. And another challenging issue you have with that is that our parents and our community really, really care. They fought hard and long since 1970 to keep this school their school, to keep the Lanesville culture their culture. I keep thinking of Mr. Easler, Mr. Richard, Jerry Ronhart, some of the big names in Lanesville community history. When we would go to school board conventions in Indianapolis, as small as we are, people would come up to us from the larger corporations and make comments about, we hear about Lanesville all the time. Where are you guys at? And it made you swell up with pride that you're from little Lanesville and some guy from a school corporation with 7,000 students want to know what you do. One of the most innovative things we accomplished, or we got credit for at school board meetings. This gentleman right here had a concept called balance calendar back in the mid 90s. And it was different. It was unique. Every neighboring school corporation, that's stupid. That'll never work. But I think it was a model for so many school corporations in the state after we proved that it can work and it impacted students' lives. When I ran for school board, we had an open house. I don't want to call it a debate, but it was kind of a debate for potential candidates. And the first question asked was, who do you consider your most important constituent? Luckily for me, I was at the end of the line. The first couple of people were saying, oh, it's the taxpayers. Oh, it's the voters. And, oh, it's the teachers. And I just kept thinking, you guys don't have it right. And they asked me, and I said, well, in my opinion, I may be wrong, but my most important constituent is the students. Please don't ever forget that. Please don't ever forget that you have a community that will go to the hill for you guys. But you got to keep them informed. You got to keep them up to date. And I know it's not intended, but you got to break down the barriers that exist about transparency, willingness to include them in discussion. Just let them be a part of the school that they are so proud of and that they truly do own. Thanks.
Next is Mike.
Sorry. Promise. I really signed up to cede my time to him and you stopped him in 3 minutes.
Just keep in mind it's Sharon's birthday.
I understand that.
Okay.
No problem. Thanks, Donnie. It was very well said. Couple things I wanted to, first of all, commend. Because first of all, when I signed up, I was coming up here to ask why there wasn't a public comment session at the end. Because you put that last month, and that was probably the best thing you've done. So that's why I didn't get up to speak the first time. Second thing I want to commend you for is before you started doing these, and when you did them, you did do discussion and some understanding to us of why you were voting or what the need for the position was, which I appreciate that. Back with Donnie on the transparency, that is, I think I mentioned at the last meeting of where I was going with that. And the reason I'm up here tonight is to ask is about this solar project. So I have asked at the last meeting to have a copy of the contract, and I was told I would get that. And I was sent one page and told that was all that where there was. And the one page was the copy of a intent to proceed from November of 19th of 2024. What I'm wanting to know and where is it is where's the nuts and bolts? Where's the numbers? The numbers that you were told to us at the bond meeting of these numbers that were proposed to you all, that this would pay for itself in 10 years? Where are those numbers? Where are those for us to see as taxpayers of this community? I've asked a couple board members and I haven't got anything. I've asked the superintendent and that's all I've been told. So I'm asking again tonight, that's all we have is a letter to proceed signed to go ahead with I'm kind of confused of a 1.2, a 1.5 with a maximum of a $1.75 million contract. Is that all that's available to the public at this time?
Mike, if you want to swing by, I can get you. When you said contract, that's why I gave you that. That's what that intent to proceed is. If you're looking for the numbers, like the presentation that they gave to us, what they said, I can let you look at that. That's no problem.
Yeah,
that's not what when you kept asking. Like I gave you the intent to proceed, the legal document. That's what I thought you kept asking. I didn't know you wanted to see those numbers.
No, I want to see the nuts and bolts of how this is supposed to be working and what is coming back to us. We hear T-Mobile is interested in credits. That's what I want to see and want to know what's going on. I want to know what's going on. I want to see those numbers. I'm just trying to wrap my head around how a solar field on top of this little school system is going to bring back enough money to pay for itself in 10 years. But yet a solar field on the north side of Interstate 64 is, I don't know how much bigger, but is only producing enough electricity for 150 houses in a year. I just can't wrap my head around that. And I want to see the numbers that you all were presented to be able to do that. All right, well, I asked and I hadn't got anything, and I understand.
Well,
So
you kept asking for a contract, and I gave you the legal document.
Okay.
So when I hear contract, not the presentation of numbers. We can get that.
Right.
That's not an issue.
So there really is no other contract out there right now.
So
That's it.
That is, yeah.
Okay.
And that's what I sent it to.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, come on, Donnie. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Again, just so talk about it. Representation. Just update. Amazon is there. This facility should have access to gas.
Verify that. I live on Ponderosa Road. I have already signed the contract. They will be coming through my property, next property, school property.
Yes, that. It will be, and I've had conversations just actually a couple months ago with Indiana Utilities. That it would be there. They're coming that way and then down. It would be a couple of years, they say, before it's here. And then at that point in time, you look at now, we've got one new complete boiler that we've redone. Everything here is electric. The other one, the same boat, so we'd have to probably spend some more money. But at that time, we're going to look at that. But I've had those conversations with Indiana Utilities a few times.
And Donnie, we did look at two different energy companies for the solar project. We had.
Other guarantee. What happens if we have 14 months of clouds and rain? I don't know this. I don't know enough about solar to say that I would believe it. 2 days is how long does that last? What's life? Just there's a lot of moving parts that might need to be replaced.
that's fine. And we spent quite a bit of time, and several of these people went with me over months and months of looking into it at various corporations. With the board in Henryville, went to East Washington, went to Brothersville. Checked with their superintendents, spoke to a lot of superintendents around the area. Talked a little bit with REMC on what they thought about it as well. A brief meeting.
Sure.
Any other public comment? If not, can I get a motion for adjournment?
Motion we adjourn.
Do I get a second?
I'll second it. I want to eat cake.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Birthday, Sharon.
Thank you.